I'm Peggy Williams, a senior partner with Lumeri. We, our firm, have been passionate about diversity and, in particular, the advancement of women. On our journey, we have met Kevin Edwards, the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Bechtel. In this section, I'll be interviewing Kevin about how 2020 has been a game changer in diversity. Kevin, anything before we jump into our questions you'd like to say?
Oh, no, Peggy, I mean, I think the only thing I'd like to say is it's been amazing, a little bit of a journey we've had together as partners. And I look forward to this would be my second engagement in the Women's Leadership Conference. So I'm looking forward to more to come. And thank you for introducing me to this awesome organization.
Great. So your education and background are in engineering. You're now the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Bechtel. Did you ever imagine this would be in your career path?
No, yeah. So, did I ever? No, not at all. Interesting enough, Peggy, we had an information session we did with students at Rutgers University last night, and guess what? They asked me the same question. Knowing that my foundation from an academic standpoint was engineering, my undergraduate as well as my graduate degree. I didn't envision that my path was going this direction. I think for me, it was just a matter of hardcore engineering and that technical mindset. Our organization has the ability to allow colleagues to take a journey wherever it seems fit for them and where their passion lies. I think that somewhat happened for me. I was able to get a broad range of experiences through the organization, me demonstrating my ability, one, to connect with diverse talent, and then two, my ability to have sustained a long-term career path with the organization for 20 years now, gave the organization some confidence. So I think that was my path, and I demonstrated to them that I had the ability to help lead this change for them as an organization.
And you are the first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Bechtel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, they announced that was a pretty big thing, announcing that. I didn't really put that into didn't connect the dots too much until I realized we did have officers in the company, and we have never had a diversity and inclusion officer in company. And yeah, I was the first one, so that was actually pretty good. I think it played a key part in regards to what we're talking about, right? Game changer, right? So again, another game changer. So
This past spring, racial equality was catapulted to the foreground. George Floyd's death unfurled a profound recognition of deep inequity and injustice. And there was I like the word, a corporate awakening. And people are expecting, not only expecting, some demanding real change. First of all, how was that for you personally as a Black man as all of that has unfurled?
yeah. It's an interesting question and a topic, and thought provoking from that standpoint too, because you know, um, being a black man or a person of color in general in America can take its toll, right? And then you get to the point where am I immune to the things that have happened? And where I'm going is, part of me was like, okay, so what has changed? I think you and I had the discussion about a friend of mine. She's a white female. She's married to a black man, and we were both getting notices or contacted by friends of ours, great friends of ours, of all colors and nationalities, and asking us how we were, how are we doing. And we both looked at each other, and just said during some opportunity that we were together and connected, and said, I had to respond and say, what has changed, right? But I think, it has changed. I think the awakening has really happened. I think there's some energy out there that we've never seen before. The energy hasn't died, right, which is a good thing. There's still more things that are happening that probably make the awakening even more profound and even stronger. But I say, as a black man, I'm really seeing some things that are turning. And I actually said to the college students last night, they asked me about my role. I said, I have never experienced more hope in our organization in the community in other areas. And I know not all is equal, right, Peggy? Not everybody is going to do the same thing. Some people think there's window dressing, but I really feel confident. I'm feeling it internally that our organization, Bechtel Corporation, is really moving in the right direction, really wanting to do the right things. Our CEO has, come out and said, "I'm learning." I was a little bit, unsure about how to approach this, but I decided I was going to go get learning, and I was going to go at it and do it. We had a town hall for the first time. We had about 18 Black colleagues of mine, come on and share where they were. How did this impact them? And we had a significant amount of people that were on that town hall that really took note. So there has been a significant change that I think has been very positive, at least in our organization.
Well, if you think about it, what a time
Yeah.
to be the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. What a
Yep.
time. Probably
Yep.
no greater time than this year, right? No greater time than this moment, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Many corporations have made really strong public commitments since then, announcing intentions to make concrete changes. I did some research yesterday, company after company, and big things, not little things, not little things. Like Apple's committed to creating an entrepreneur camp for Black software developers. PayPal is creating a $500 million fund to support Black and minority businesses. Estee Lauder said they're going to match Black employees at all the level of the companies to mirror the world in the next 5 years. I mean, on and on and on. So I'm curious, what has Bechtel said? Appreciating it is a privately run company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's key. I mean, that's a key thing. But I think we've done some things that really align, or our position and what we've done really align with as if we were a public company, right? So we didn't really shy away from, we're private, we don't necessarily have to do it. We actually kind of did some of the same things. And there's a couple of things I want to pinpoint. So from an internal standpoint, we had the town hall, and I will tell you, a lot of our senior leaders stepped up for whatever reason, probably felt it, had the passion, really understood what it meant to be an anti-racist, all of this education where they were at a whole different level than others. And they were really pushing our CEO to really do some things like, we need to put an internal communication out. We need to tell our people where we stand, where you stand, what we will withstand in the organization, what we will not withstand, what is it that this organization stands by. So he did, our CEO, Brendan Bechtel did put out an internal notice that was really promising and was really heartfelt. And it really told our employees where we were in this position and what we felt we would tolerate or not tolerate. And we put it out there in regards to what our position was relative to the George Floyd incident, as well as the others, right, that happened. Not only did we do that, Peggy, we actually put out an external message, which is something we generally don't do, honestly.
Because you're privately held.
Because we're private. Our true investment is really the investment of our people, right? We talk about that all the time. But we did put out a message that was an external message, but it was a different message because we weren't messaging to our investors. We were messaging to people out there that would want to have an interest or have a potential career, or our customers or our community partners. It was that type of messaging to make sure people who were actually partners of ours understood where we were in this matter. But I did recently have a conversation with the head of our Bechtel Foundation, and they are looking at ways, we are looking at shifting our programs that we are aligned with relative to our foundation dollars. And they are looking at ways to bring in more of a diversity lens relative to where we put our foundation money. So for us, it really tells you that we're still aligned with, supporting the commitment in regards to what we want to do for our Black colleagues and the different association out there that align with that. And so it was our way of being able to make sure we align with some of the causes that other companies like you shared were doing. So I thought that was important.
That's great. That's great. Well, it has been our observation that when a company does publicly say something,
Yeah.
they go further and faster. And we've worked at PepsiCo where Indra said, we're going to have gender parity by 2025. And I saw the amount that that unleashed in that company, you know, inside, and that they are pursuing and on their way. So those public commitments are powerful. So I'm heartened by all the public commitments, you know, that we've heard for the
Yeah,
whole, for all of it, right? For
yeah,
all the whole situation.
absolutely.
So you state your objective, this is kind of in your biography here, is to ensure each employee can show up to work as they are and have hope and continual opportunities to advance within the organization, regardless of their race, gender, age, ethnicity, socioeconomic, sexual orientation, or disability. Now, when I read that, I have to tell you, I was heartened. I have a transgender daughter, and
Mm,
I want her. I was going, I hope wherever she's going, this is this is
yeah,
what's for her, right? Seriously. So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
was heartened when I read that. So what makes this so meaningful to you?
Well, I think it's just look at me first of all. You may see it, but you may not. But I'm a black male in an organization that is predominantly white male, right? And for a very long time, as being a part of the company and being invited to some of the key leadership things that we have in our organization, like we have global business meetings and all of that, and we usually bring the top 300-400 individuals in the company together. And then generally, what I usually do, Peggy, when I'm at those things, is I'm pulsing the room to see who's here that looks like me. How many of us are there? How many women are there? Right? So it's
What do
things
you
like
find? What do you
what's
find out? How many are there? Not many, right?
not many. I will tell you, our last one was a significant change. Now, it wasn't half the room, but it was a lot more than we had before. And in fact, we actually had some of those same individuals that we are now inviting to those events be on the stage and talk. So not only are they getting a chance to be in the audience, they're actually getting a chance to be part of the actual agenda, right? So it's important to see that. But I will tell you, we've got a long way to go. The commitment is there, but there's really a business connection to all of this, Peggy, as well. For us being a private company and existing for 122 years, we will not continue to be as successful as we are today if we don't really change the way that we look, if we don't really change our acceptance and our feeling and how we collaborate and how we become one. And we have this theme of we are Bechtel and how we actually go and actually achieve things as one team and come more together. If those things don't happen, one, if we don't bring more diverse talent in, because we know diversity is shaping the way we look in America as well as in the globe, if we don't start leveraging that talent to bring that talent in and getting our colleagues comfortable with that talent also being competitive with them and being on the same stage with them to be able to really drive for the same outcomes, then we are not going to position ourselves to be successful for another 122 years. So that's part of that messaging. And the other things that we know we have relative to helping us understand where we exist and where we're going, it's important for our organization to really continue to understand that we're really starting to make change, move the needle, and really become a different and a more inclusive workforce that we need to be in order to shape where we want to be in the future.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is what's one thing you could say you're doing that Bechtel's doing that's going to make this moment count?
Well, Peggy, I mean, I can think of it right away, and it's something I don't think we've ever thought of, at least when I was here in 20 years. We have accelerated development programs for different portions of our community based on where we see individuals, heading into our senior leadership, our operating committee, whether they become partners or they short shots, and there's a plan and everything put in place. We actually, maybe 2 weeks ago, and maybe it's less than that, established that here is a short list of a pipeline of our Black professional colleagues in the US for now, that we are actually going to put a plan in place and start supporting them in accelerating, because we see that they have potential, they're qualified, accelerating a path for them that we can see then move further and quicker in the organization than we've ever had before. And as a leadership, we're prepared to make sure we message to any colleague who feels that somehow this threatens their existence, to help them understand that this really opens up a more level playing field. And it's not to eliminate anything or anyone from moving along in our organization. It just says that we all have to bring our A games, right, along the way, because there's a significant amount of talent out there that's just as qualified, if not more qualified, that we have forgotten about for a long time. And so that's part of the one big game changer, I think, that we have done. We said we were going to do, and we actually committed to doing it. And now we actually are moving along in regards to making that happen.
Well,
So
you bring up a great point, because I've seen this with women, the advancement of women. Well, why should they get an advantage? And what about us? And so, of course, you have to contend with that, right? Those
yeah,
that
and
it's
Peggy, that has stuck for us. That actually, our advancement of women has really, really worked to some degree. Okay, so I'm going to qualify that. We are starting to see more women advance. And when you look at certain announcements that happen, when we have elections and all that, you are seeing women on those announcements, but you're not seeing women of color on
not.
those. And so that's a significant gap.
So let's talk about women advancing, and in particular women of color, because this is a women's conference.
Yeah.
So that, and you know, when I think about it, from having worked a long time on this, I think you can look at it that there's three different dimensions that have to be taken care of. What is the institution doing, right? The institution, and I know that's your role, right, is to
Yep.
make
Yes.
sure that the institution is doing the things that enable women to advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there are all the rest of the individuals in the organization. What are they doing? So it's not just up to the institution. It's what am I doing? What are you doing?
Personally doing? Yep.
What are the other men? What are men doing? To support the women. As a white woman, what am I doing to support the advancement of Black women?
Yep.
And I love the term allyship, that's been talked about. And I looked up the definition, which I loved. An ally is any person that actively promotes and aspires to advance the culture of inclusion through intentional, positive, and conscious efforts that benefit as a whole. So, when I look as an ally, I think every one of us, everybody could be an ally and asking themselves, what can I do, right? I can be a sponsor, right, of an underrepresented population. I can make concerted efforts to go meet those people. I can call out inappropriate behavior when I see it. I can go listen. So I'd love to hear, what are ways you are seeing that people are demonstrating allyship at Bechtel? Because I think that's key. It can't just be left up to the institution.
Yeah. No. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's more power in the individual movement, or just as much power in the individual movement as there would be in the institution, from a standpoint of that. I will say, there are a few things, and you touched on some of them, but let me just hit on a few. We have seen the power in sponsorship, particularly our white men leaders, and even our people of color men leaders. There has been a significant change in regards to the sponsorship. Now, when I say that, what I think has happened that has kind of somewhat still created a void is we've been very selective in regards to who we want to sponsor, right? And we're not really looking at a bigger picture in regards to the importance of sponsoring somebody that doesn't look like you, or sponsoring someone that doesn't have the same race or ethnicity as you, or sponsoring somebody that doesn't have the same gender as you. I think women are very good at sponsoring other women, but how do we turn the table that we get the men to sponsor the women? Or in some cases, we have women sponsoring men, so we can demonstrate that it can work both ways, right? I think the other piece comes into play when you talk about women of color, as an example. It has to be that our men who are not of color, our white men, start to understand what it's like to be someone of color, understanding those particular things so they can actually have a very clear sense about the challenges that they face that are not. And what we see in this, Peggy, is an education process. And so we're
Mhm.
trying to get our actual allies to become more listeners than they are talkers. Because generally in my industry, in my organization, our leaders tend to always feel like they have to be the ones talking and the ones that can shape and tell everything that has to go. And right now, we're trying to give them a sense when we think about how do you communicate about diversity and all of those other things and have a conversation on these tough topics is the first thing you can do is just listen, get a feel for what the individual is going through, have some empathy and understand. And if you do that, then that's going to make all the difference in the world. But I would finish with the thing that you started with was we all as individuals own our careers, right? And I think there's some ownership that we all have to do. I think we need to give the support to our women and our female talent out there to help gauge a direction that they should go in and allow them to understand what are the actual career decisions that they need to make. We can't allow them to be out there making decisions on their own, but to guide them. That's all part of the coaching that we have to do as supervisors and managers, right? And the teachings, and to be able to provide that opening or that opportunity, for lack of words, that they actually can see that there's an avenue or path that they can go down. And if we can do that, I think it's going to make a significant amount of difference. But foundationally and as an institution, we have to set up those core programs that have them in place to be able to help all of our talent, especially our women talent. And let me just finish with one thing real quick, Peggy. You know, the 2020 report just came out from McKinsey, right? And now we're in COVID, and all these things are happening with COVID. People are coming down, companies are coming down, workforces are being reduced. And we typically, and this report has demonstrated that and validated that we generally see during these times that it's the women and it's the people of color, the women of color that really are impacted heavy from this, just like our diverse talent, whether they're men or not. And so that is a sign that as we go through the things we have to go through to build institutional foundation, we need to have things set in place that talent doesn't necessarily get impacted as a result of certain things we go through. And how do we build up foundational walls to protect them? So that way they're more secure in their opportunities and we don't see them as a first pass as far as them being the first one out the door.
That's such a great point, right?
Yeah.
Because women have been so impacted, right, by COVID. Um, Not only the demands of their job and having to figure out remotely, but the family having to relearn fifth grade math or seventh grade math, right? All of it trying to make sure the kids working home. It's been tough, and it's taken its toll. Um, so I think there are, if I look again, in women advancing, they're the institutional things, just like you pointed to, right? That we can really help women. There's that allyship that everybody can offer. And then I do think women can do things for themselves. And I've been working with women for a long time. And I like to share a few things that I think women can do. And then I'd love to hear, what you women can do to support themselves. First, women could quit doubting and second guessing themselves. I have again worked with women from the top to middle level, and we second guess, which does not help us. So if we speak up in a meeting, that's it. We don't need to second guess. Throw your hat in when an opportunity arises, even if you don't feel 100% qualified, because we all know if a guy doesn't feel, if he's got 2 qualifications out of 5, he's good. If we have 4 and 7, 75%, we think we can't. So throw your hat in. The other thing is women don't ask. Women should ask, and it has a huge consequence not asking, particularly in our income and our salary. So be bolder in asking. And then the last thing is, I think, understand not only do you belong here, but that you have a unique contribution to make, and that today that contribution is probably needed more than ever, what women can bring to business and to the world. So anything you would add that you see how women could support themselves?
Yeah, I'm gonna state one thing, and this applies to men as well. I think our women need to stop saying sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
I think they need to stop saying sorry. I have learned, and this was part of the thing that I actually recognized and someone taught me is don't be sorry. Don't if in fact you're responding and putting something out there and you put your best foot forward, just say, attached, please find. Oh, not sorry, I didn't get it to you yesterday. Here you go. Stand by certain things. Don't be sorry that you may be aggressive, lack of better words, in meetings. It's because you're showing leadership. Don't be sorry for your leadership qualities. Don't be sorry for your competence or your competency in regards to deliver and drive. Don't be sorry for your will, right? So I think that's part of it. And I think when we all stop feeling sorry, we build a better confidence level for ourselves to really be able to say what decisions I made was just the best decision, and you don't second guess, should I have gone in a different direction and done something differently. And I think the more our leadership starts to recognize that our women are just as capable, and we don't get this, and our women don't get described as something differently, then it works. I mean, we just had a talent review, and I was looking at talent profiles that we had for some of our colleagues and how we described what the challenges were for our women talent versus our male talent. I was looking for those particular words that we use for women that we don't use for men, or we use an opposite word for a man that we use for women, and the word we use for the women is more degrading than it is for the man, right? I said, then maybe what we can do is put our criteria together relative to your four corners of capability and make it very generic and allow everybody to use that same criteria and statements to describe each other, and you don't have a statement that you describe a male or a statement you describe a female. So I would say for our female talent, don't be sorry that you are driving at a different level that our men are, and I think you're just as capable, if not more capable, as our men leaders as well. So continue to move forward.
Well, Kevin, 2020, game-changing year. And what an opportunity, right, for us to make progress, right? Thank you for taking the time.
You got it. Anytime, Peggy. Anytime we want to talk about this dialogue, you have me committed. Just let me know.
So from a sustainability standpoint, how have you modified HR policies relative to coaching, mentoring, or hiring to allow for more diversification and, more importantly, holding hiring managers accountable?
Well, I think we need to be here all day for that question, because I can go on for about a day, but let me kind of break that off in a couple of points. We're doing some significant things. Number one, in our TA space to integrate first of all, we're modifying our processes. Number one. Number two, integrate certain interventions in the process to make sure we've got checks and balances along the way, and really not allowing our key members of the organization in key hiring positions to kind of move forward without really hitting targets. And I talked about that today with our president and COO in regards to accountability. You know, if we see that a hiring manager is actually has 10 opportunities over a year, and 9 out of the 10 times allowed his or her gate to go through without hitting the targets, then to me, that's not being accountable for you owning your part in the process in regards to us being more diverse in our targets. And so that becomes part of how we sustain it. So if our processes and our policies are going to change to integrate this, then what we've got to do is make sure that we've got that accountability piece, and we're measuring how we're trending relative to the outcomes that we want. So if we look at this and we have certain things that we want to happen along the process in a talent acquisition phase, and relative to making sure that whether it's new hires or individuals that we want to grow and develop for new opportunities and so forth, that we're allowing that candidate slate to grow, and then we're seeing more individuals get opportunities to be interviewed. And at the end of the day, maybe our baseline says that 20% of the individuals that get new opportunities are from our URG. We want to have a goal that maybe we make it 45%, and how are we trending that way? And if we've got an integrated process to allow us to do that, and that's really sustainable. Are we achievable and sustainable to make sure we can carry that through along the way? But it's going to take, some tough, it's going to take leveraging some of our leaders, leveraging some of our champions out there from D&I space to push back and challenge people for not wanting to go along where we want to go. But it's an education to help them understand the why we're doing this and why they play a part and why it's going to allow us as an organization to be successful. And it's not about really lifting up one demographic or certain demographics of our organization, but it's about lifting up all of us. So to me, that's sustainability.
Hey, Melissa, there's a great question there for Kevin about what has been his personal trade-offs in stepping into this role, out of your engineering. That's really, really a great question.
Yeah, I just saw that come in. So Kevin, it says, what has been your personal trade-off in stepping into this role and away from the area where you were initially trained, engineering? There are concerns also for people feeling as though you had to sacrifice a first love for the greater good. What has been rewarding for you?
Yeah, I don't think there's been any trade-off. I'm still able to utilize a lot of the skill sets that I had along the way. But one of our senior managers, partners in the company reminded me of this. I didn't really think about this in this way, just maybe because maybe I took it for granted. I don't know. But, I've been with the company 20 years and I'm an engineer by degree, got my master's in engineering, have had significant engineering roles in construction and quality and all of that. And I've gotten a feel for how we operate as an organization. And I've been able to kind of pave my way based on a roadmap that really works for me, with, of course, some support and sponsorship along the way, some hidden more than anything. And what dawned on me was I've been allowed to kind of follow part of my dream, part of my passion, still exhibiting key components that I've been able to do to help with the organization along the way, from engineering and all that other stuff. And I'm still able to make sure that I can hone in on the things that I know that I'm good at, which is engineering, which is my Six Sigma qualities and all that other stuff, and bring that into what I'm doing from a standpoint of my day-to-day. So if I need to go, design an actual roadmap for us to do something, I've got my engineering hat on, I got my Six Sigma hat on, and I'm thinking about how to do this more quality and effective, and I'm bringing it all together. So just because I'm doing D&I doesn't mean I'm not utilizing my engineering mindset and my Six Sigma mindset and those type of things to be more efficient. I just now have developed a pathway for myself. Now, honestly, my new manager, the president and CEO, has asked me, Kevin, how long do you want to do this? When are we going to start thinking about what's next for you? And so I can envision myself going back into project management and doing something else where I get back into engineering. So let's not think about this as, oh, I'm removing myself from certain areas of where I've had true competencies from a standpoint of skill, and realize that I'm now going to be more competent in regards to how managing people and allowing all of our people in the organization to go further, even if I go back there. It's all about our people. So now I'm becoming more of a people manager.
Evan, that's great. You'll be a way better leader.
Exactly.
And you got to admit, how fulfilling has this been?
Well, it's been amazing. When we had Juneteenth that happened, I kind of educated myself on that because we've never really, as an organization, brought any light to it. And I actually went home. I shared this story with our CEO. I went home and I got together with my daughter, my son, my mother-in-law, my wife, and we researched Juneteenth. They actually helped me to prepare a message that our CEO would put out, or I would put out, relative to that celebration and that holiday, and then start recognizing it. And it was an education for me, and it was a come together for me as my family. And I was able to share a story and recognize that we all are in this journey, are learning. And it's just been amazing. Hey, this is my second year in the Women's Global Leadership Conference, and now I'm speaking, and I've been able to develop relationships with Peggy and Lucinda, and we're continuing on the journey. And in fact, Peggy, you don't know this, but I had a conversation with some of our HR leadership yesterday, and we were talking about what we're going to do for some of our women, and we can't lose sight of our women of color. And I kept saying, you guys keep stealing my thunder. I have a call with one of my key partners this week about creating that program for them. So it's just great that I'm being able to really put some things in place to help our organization kind of turn the table and build some more sustainable growth for us as an organization.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Well, it looks like we're almost out of time, but I have one last closer question that I think is really important. So, Kevin, what do you see as the biggest challenge to powerfully move diversity and inclusion forward, and how do we create opportunities around that?
I think our biggest challenge really is what they call the clay layer. I mean, we have a significant level of talent that's in our organization that we haven't even tapped into yet. And we start talking about it as we can't continue to overlook those that have been overlooked. And we have continued to overlook individuals in our organization that have been here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We can do some good things at the beginning to bring new talent in, but we got to do a better job of supporting that talent when they come through the door. We have to do a better job of setting them up to be successful and growing them. And just today, having a conversation with my manager about, you know what, we're going to set it up that now that we have these different accelerated programs for our Black professionals, our Hispanic, Latinx professionals, our women professionals, we want to make sure that we understand what is it that we're doing for them, because they've been here for a while and they've been craving opportunities. And I think that is one of our biggest challenges, to get them to move, which we call through our leadership pathways. And starting to advance that talent, I think is going to be the biggest thing, that we can start seeing different individuals start moving in leadership roles. And then the individuals that are coming through the door today, and as we start supporting them, they start seeing that there's some movement. They start seeing that we do care for them, and they start seeing that there are individuals just that look like them that start moving along in the pendulum of leadership. And I think it's going to allow us to just be that much better as an organization in 2021 and beyond.
Well, fantastic. Peggy, anything to add to that
No.
before we
no,
close?
Nope. I just thank everybody for attending. And Kevin, it's been a blast.
Absolutely, Peggy. It's never a dull moment with me, for sure, right?
Well, thank you so much. My key takeaway from that, I just got a one-liner. I love the one-liners that come out of this conference, and it's, we can't continue to overlook those that have been overlooked.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be my key takeaway from this one. So thank you very much, Peggy, Kevin, for your time today on the live Q&A. Thank you, audience, for jumping in and asking questions. I know there were a couple of questions that we weren't able to get to due to time, but I'll be sure to put those in the chat so that maybe Peggy or Kevin could jump on there and answer those. And again, thank you for your time.